What's going on YouTube? West Hobbies RC. So today we are back with another SAB build. It is another Goblin RAW and it is another 580. But as you can see, we have a pipe and a 55. So we are building the SAB Nitro 580 RAW. So we got a few of the stuff here. We're going to need a little bit more stuff, but this will be enough to get us started. So, of course, we are running an OS 55 HZ engine. Of course, a OS pipe, the Power Boost pipe, great pipe, Icon 2 HD Bluetooth, and Theta servos, or however you pronounce these things. So this will be the first time trying these servos. We are running the TSRT1B on the tail, and we have 4 of the TSSC1, so 3 for cyclic and 1 for throttle and 1 for tail. So we are going to get everything out of the boxes and we are going to get started on this build. So let's start with the first part we are going to get started with, like all SAB builds, is the transmission assembly. So you're going to go ahead and unpackage your transmission assembly, and in box 1 bag 6 you're going to have everything we need for this step. So you're going to grab your main pulley. And I already went ahead, as you can see, and got some flywheel grease. Now, SAB recommends their flywheel grease, so I'm using all Loctite retaining compound and greases that SAB recommends. So I already went ahead, got some grease inside of the bearing. And then what I like to do is grab a little bit of grease on my finger and just smear it on the shaft here. So we're just going to go ahead and get some grease all around the shaft. Take a paper towel, wipe your finger off. Now you're going to grab this little spacer. You're going to slide this guy on first, and then on the pulley itself you want to make sure that the flat smaller side goes towards the top of the transmission and the longer side goes at the bottom. So we're just going to go ahead, spin this on here, and you can see a lot of our grease came right out. So we're going to go ahead and move it out, put some back, and get it into place. So now we're going to wipe the excess grease, which is a lot. We are going to grab the tail pulley. Now, the tail pulley comes with 2 shims. So what I recommend is putting 1 shim on first, putting your pulley down, line up your bolt, and remember this is threaded, so we're going to have to get Loctite, and we're going to tighten this down and check for play. We have our bolt ready with Loctite. It is a 2.5mm driver. So you're going to go ahead and thread it through. Again, we only have 1 shim in right now. So we're going to tighten this down. And we're going to check for play here. We have no play. So we only need 1 shim on this particular setup. Now yours may be different. You might need 2 shims. So we're going to set that shim aside and keep it for the spare parts. So now your next step is going to be grabbing your front little bracket here. Like all SAB models, you're going to have a recessed notch here and a raised notch here. You'll see the countersunk screw holes. When you grab your transmission assembly, you'll notice that the recessed area goes down into place like this. So we got our 2mm driver ready. Loctite, of course. Again, make sure that you have it on the correct way. It's only going to go on one way and fit properly. So you're going to go ahead and put all 3 of your screws in. So now that we have all 3 of our screws in, go ahead and tighten them down. So that way everything sits down into place like it should. Make sure you snug them up nice and tight, but don't kill them because there is no point. The Loctite will do its job. So now we have our front servo mounts put on. Now we can rotate the transmission assembly over. Make sure you take this little saran wrap cover here off, like I have here. This is just a little protective sleeve to stop it from rusting. All right, so now you're going to grab your back elevator servo mount bracket, and you will see here it says SAB CCPM 120. So now you are going to put it on this way, so you'll notice countersunk areas, flat side. It's going to go down like this. Line up your screw holes. It's only going to fit one way. Well, I guess you could put it on upside down. Loctite your screws. Go ahead and snug them down. Grab your neck screw, which I already have pre-Loctited. Go ahead and run that one down. Get them both snugged up. Now we grab our elevator servo mount, which is going to be this guy right here. So now, this is going to be the back of the helicopter. This is going to be the front of the helicopter. So our mount is going to go on this way. So the little notched out is going to go to the left side. This is the right side. So we are going to grab our screw. We are going to, of course, get a 2mm driver. And grab your Loctite. Loctite your screw down. Again, make sure your little tab is on the left side of the helicopter. Go ahead and get your screws started and run them both down and tighten up. Okay, so we went ahead, got all of our screws tightened down. Our servo mounts are Loctited and ready to go. So now it is time to install our servos. So I already went ahead and got the servos ready. Like on all SAB builds, from your center horn to your length, your ball end, you want to be 17 to 18 millimeters. With the torque arms that we are using, it's about 17.82 millimeters to be 100% exact. So we're going to take our servo now. You'll notice something. In the manual, they tell you to just screw your servos down. Now with the Nitro model, you really don't want to do that. Nitro, there's vibrations, so you want to rubber mount your servos. If you hard mount your servos, you run the risk of a servo failure. So I went ahead and used the included rubber grommets and brass inserts. Now, notice one thing. The brass is pushed from the bottom up, and this is the way you want to do it, and this is the way it goes. So when you tighten it down, the little brass squishes down. The brass bottoms out against the bracket, and it allows the servo to do its moving. So that's the way you want to do them. I see them all the time upside down, and it's not correct. So anyways, servo is going to sit into place like so. We are going to grab a set that we already have ready, which is going to be your carbon fiber plate and your set screws, or your regular screws, sorry. It is going to be a 2mm driver. So go ahead and get you one screw started, get the next one started. You guys know the deal. Go ahead, snug them down, and then you're going to do the same for the other side. Go ahead and grab your next servo. Again, we got the servo horns done and on. Make sure you use your little servo indicator. This is going to show you, this little carbon fiber is going to show you where you want your servo horn to be at 90 degrees or neutral servo. So now we're going to grab this servo. We're going to slide it into place just like this. And we're going to grab our next set of screws that are already pre-Loctited. We are going to slide them in. Screw them down. 2mm driver again. Get them started. And then go ahead and mount your other servo and screw those down as well. And you'll notice when you run these screws down, or when you tighten these servos down, like on the back servo, you'll notice a little bit here. The servo can move just a couple millimeters, which is what you want to absorb vibration. So let's go ahead and get the other screws in and get the other servo mounted. All right, so now our transmission assembly with the servos is mounted. All of our screws are Loctited. So we are ready to set the transmission assembly aside. And our next step is going to be grabbing our carbon fiber mainframe sides. So with your mainframe side, you're going to get a bunch of these little guys, and you're going to get 2 of these little guys. So now these black ones are the engine spacers. So these are going to go in the front of the frame, as you will see now. So everything is going to be a 1.5mm and 2mm driver. So your main screws are going to be a 1.5mm driver, and your other engine plate screws are going to be a 2mm. Now remember, you're going to need to build a left and a right frame side. So grab one of these little guys here. Now we're not going to be going into the lock nut side, we're going to go into the threaded side. So grab one, and we are going to start building the right side now. So you are going to notice they are countersunk holes on both sides, so you can get one built either way. So they're going to go just like this. A big hole is going to be for the lock nutted side. Your countersunk screw with your Loctite is going to go on this side. And you are just going to move down the line. You're going to do one here, and one here like this. And you are going to do the same on the other side. But now remember, on the other side, you have to build a left and a right. So now this is the front side of the frame. This is the back side of the frame. So now just for video purposes, I'm going to show you. Now we're going to take this side. We're going to run our screw in this way, and we are going to insert this way. And we're going to go ahead, tighten this down. So now you'll notice that we have a left side and a right side. Same with the engine spacer. So you're going to grab your engine spacer. You're going to see this little white mark here. That is going to go out. The little recess drop down is going to go in. So this is going to sit down in here like this. With your threaded side there. You're going to clean excess Loctite off when you are done. It will be a 2mm driver. Go ahead, Loctite your screws. And run your screw down on this. Tighten it up. And do the same on the other side. So now we got both of our frame sides done. As you can see, we have a left and a right. So when you look at them this way, we have a left and a right. So now we're going to grab our right frame side, and we are going to grab our transmission assembly. Now you'll notice that these holes are slotted. Now you'll notice you have 1, 2, 3, 4 holes on each side. Now just like on all SAB kits, on the right side of the helicopter, we leave this front screw out. But these holes are slotted, and that is for a reason. I am assuming, now I don't know this, but I'm assuming that is so you can slide the transmission assembly forward and backwards for belt tension. That is my guess. I haven't built one, so I don't know. So you're going to need a 2mm driver, Loctite on your screw. I already put the beauty ring washers on, and we are going to start with this back screw first. We are just going to get it started. We're going to grab our next screw, same thing. Loctite. We are going to get it snugged up and started. And we're going to put this screw right here. Now remember again, we are leaving this front one out. But now you see this slides back and forth, and I'm pretty sure that is to tension the belt on the engine. So I'm going to go ahead, get this next screw Loctited, get it put into place. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and run the frame all the way forward for now. We can always loosen, re-Loctite later on once we get the engine in place and tension the belt that way. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same exact thing on the other side. The only difference is we will be putting that front screw in. So now that we got all of our screws in on the left side, and then on the right side of the helicopter, we only got our 3, 1, 2, and 3. Again, leave this front one out until later on in the build. So now our complete transmission assembly is bolted to the upper frame sides. Again, this is the front of the model. This is the back. So as you can tell, we have our servo here. It's going to be longer. This is going to be your tail boom block mounts and your FBL mount. Everything goes there. And your engine mount will be going right here. So now we are going to set this whole assembly aside, and we are going to get started on the head. So now we are going to start on the head assembly. So the first thing you're going to need is box 1 bag, or page 10 for the bag. You're going to get all your parts laid out. So you're going to go ahead and grab your radius arms. So you're going to just put a bearing in one side, pop it into place, grab your little brass insert, drop it down, grab your next bearing, pop it into place. Now these don't need any kind of Loctite or retaining compound, and it can be a pain. And then push them down. And then what I like to do is just insert a small driver just to make sure that the brass insert is lined up. But as you can see, now both of our bearings are in place. So now you're going to do the same on the other one, and then we can move on. So next step is going to be your other radius arms. These are the aluminum ones. The ones we just did are plastic. So now we are going to grab our bearing. Now these are flanged bearings. Now we need some retaining compound. We're just going to put a little bit of retaining compound around the bearing. And for you guys that don't know what retaining compound is or don't use it, it is basically like a Loctite, just a little different. It's not made to lock threads. It's made to glue metal races like this. Your bearing race, what can happen if you don't use retaining compound is the bearing can spin inside of the part. Whatever you're doing, any kind of race on the bearing can spin inside the part, and a retaining compound just locks that into place and stops that from happening. You're going to take your brass insert, you are going to drop it down into your radius arm just like that, and then you are going to do the same thing. Grab your bearing, little bit of retaining compound, You want to put it on the outside edge of the bearing, of the race of the bearing. And then you're going to simply just push it into place. So it'll look something like this when you're done. Grab yourself a paper towel with rubbing alcohol, clean the excess off, and go ahead and do the other one. Now our next step is going to be the linkage rods, and this is going to be from the blade grips to the swash plate, and then we will do the swash plate to the servos in a second. So you're going to grab your threaded linkage rod. Now if you look closely at this rod, you're going to see a L and an R. That's for left hand and right-handed thread. So you have a right hand and you have a left hand thread. What I like to do is grab yourself a driver, and I will start with the right-handed thread side. So you're going to take your ball link and just get 1 or 2 threads started. Now you're going to have to push because you are cutting threads into the plastic. So you're going to want to try to be straight and square. Push as you turn, and then grab your nifty little tool that SAB gives you. Insert, grab your driver, and it will be as simple as twisting all the way down. You want an overall length of 62 to 63 millimeters. So now on the left-handed thread side, you're going to grab it and you're going to turn left. Get a couple threads started, grab your little nifty tool, and make sure you spin to the left. Go ahead, run this down, check it with a caliper, whatever you use, any kind of measuring millimeter device. So you're going to have something that looks something like this when you're done. Just make sure from end to end it is 62 to 63 millimeters, and then make your other one. So now that we got our linkage rods made, they are both identical to each other, 62 millimeters, we are going to start on the head block assembly. So now what I personally like to do is I like to keep my 70 and 90 O-ring dampeners in the bags. If you take them out, you can always squeeze them and tell the 70s are a lot softer than the 90s. So what I'm going to do is grab some lube. Now, micro lube is the best stuff to use, but unfortunately right now micro lube is very difficult to get. So we are just going to be using some regular SAB grease. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a 70 and a 90. We're going to take our head block. So what I like to do is I like to get a little bit of grease on my finger. Wrong grease. I'm going to take a little bit of grease, get it put on my finger. And then I like to grease the dampener up. See, now you can squeeze. This is the 90. This is the 70. So on the manual, they say 70 first, then 90. So I'm going to take a little bit of this grease, and I'm going to grease the O-ring up. Now I do this for a couple reasons. Main reason is for installation. I like to get them nice and greased up and put a little bit inside the head block itself. So we are going to simply push that O-ring in, and then we are going to do the same for the 90. Get it all greased up so it slides in nice and easily. Now our O-rings are in the head, and then you're going to grab your head dampener, put a little bit of grease on that. You're going to slide that into the head. So now you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. We are going to grab a 70 first, little bit of grease, grease up our 70 O-ring dampener, slide it in all the way down. You can use the feathering shaft or a little driver to help push the O-ring so it's all the way flat like this. Make sure you get your grease on the inside of the head block as well. Have a paper towel handy. If you're using alcohol, make sure you don't have any cuts on your finger like I do, because alcohol burns like hell. So now we're going to grab our 90, squeeze to double check and make sure that it is our 90. We're going to get all over here. We are going to shove this inside. And now what I like to do before I put the shaft in, because remember our shaft threads are open, is I like to take my driver and get all the excess grease that has, went out or is there, because I don't want to get any grease inside of the threads for the feathering shaft bolts. We don't want grease on those threads. Grease, threads, and Loctite does not go together. So you can see we got a lot of the grease out, nice and smooth. Now we're going to take a little bit of grease And we are going to put it on the shaft. You don't want a lot, you just want a skim coat on the shaft, just so it helps slide through. We'll take our head block and we are going to just gently and carefully push it all the way through. Keep pushing. And we want to push up till it comes through the O-rings. And you can see we got a little bit of grease on there, which is okay. You can grab your alcohol, paper towel, get it out, clean it off. You can completely soak the inside because it is hollow. So you can, I like to spray alcohol down the middle of it. So now we have this part assembled. We're gonna go ahead and kind of center off our block. We're gonna grab our dampeners, push those into place, grab your next dampener, push that into place, and now we are ready for the blade grips to go on. Okay, so the next part of the build is going to be putting the radius arms on the head block itself. So you're going to grab your aluminum radius arm like this. You are going to grab your 15 millimeter. There's a 15 and an 18. You're going to grab the 15, slide it through. We have Loctite already. You're going to grab, they come with 2 of these little tiny washers, and these little washers are going to slide on. Now look at your head block. You see this hole. This is going to go into the bottom hole, and tighten this all the way down. Make sure that SAB logo is facing out. So snug this up. It should be nice and free. Rotate the head block over. Do the same on the other side. Pay attention to where your pinch bolt holes are. I already have this one already pre-assembled and ready to go. So we're gonna slide this one into the bottom hole again. Go ahead, tighten this all the way down. Your screw should not be sticking out. So if you look at the block itself, there should be no screw sticking out. Your arm should be free and smooth. So now we can grab our plastic radius arm, grab the 18 millimeter long screws. Go ahead, get your Loctite on there. And then same thing, the SAB logo faces out. I don't know if you can see the SAB logo there. There you go, SAB faces out. So we want it to be just like this. You'll notice on the metal radius arm, there's a little ridge right there. That little ridge rides on the bearing. So you can put your screw through first. Grab your radius arm, and it is going to go like this. Screw this all the way down and tighten up. Everything should stay free and smooth. Now go ahead and do the same on the other side. Again, make sure SAB is facing out. So we have SAB out, SAB out. Now we're gonna go ahead and get the blade grips assembled. Now the blade grips come preloaded. What is called preloaded, where the bearings, you're gonna have a bearing here and a bearing here, but you have to assemble your thrust bearings. And I have everything laid out here the way that it goes, exception of your feathering shaft bolts. Now I already went ahead and cleaned my feathering shaft bolts with rubbing alcohol. Pretty important. Now in the bag, you are going to get this, in the blade grip bag, you are going to get this at bag 11-4. Now these are extra shims. So basically what SAB tells you in the manual is to check preload. If you have a lot of preload, or if you have a little bit of play, to add 1 shim at a time. And those shims are gonna go behind these shims here. So it would be one of these shims here, and then this shim, and then your thrust bearings. But we are going to assemble without and check and see how it is. So what I do is I grab a driver and I assemble them backwards. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our first, sorry, I did it wrong. We're gonna assemble them this way. So we're gonna grab our first washer, which is going to be the washer. Look at the head of the driver as your feathering shaft bolt. And then you're gonna have a smaller ID and larger ID thrust bearing. So this is going to be the smaller ID first, and it's gonna go on this way, cup in, and then you are going to take your thrust bearing and you are going to take a little bit of grease and you're going to want to pack this bearing with grease. So I just like to go around it like this, and I like to pack the bearing. So I take my finger and I literally just push the grease into the thrust bearing all the way around. We need a little bit more. Now we got this bearing packed really good. You're going to do the same on the other bearing. Wipe off any excess. Of course, use a driver or whatever if you have small enough fingers. Try to get all that grease down inside this thrust bearing as much as possible. So now we're going to take this thrust bearing, and it is going to slide out. Now the importance of direction. So you'll notice on the thrust bearing itself, you're going to have an open side and you have a flat side. Oh, you can't see that. Flat side, open side. Open flat side is going to go towards the feathering shaft bolt. Then you're going to take your larger ID, slide it down. Take your shim, slide it down. So this is what your bearing assembly should look like. We want to wipe off, make sure we have no grease on here. We're going to take our blade grip and you just turn it upside down. Drop the whole assembly down in there. This blade grip is done and ready to go. We are going to assemble the other one and then slide them on. So now we are ready to assemble our head together now. So what we're going to do is what I like to do anyways. Now there's two ways you can do this. You can put Loctite down inside of here like this. You can get you some Loctite, get it down inside the bolt, threads, let it run down. And it works great that way. And I do it this way as well. But the one thing I really do is I take my Loctite and I will run a bead down my feathering shaft bolt. Run a bead down the bolt. Let it sit for a minute before I assemble, so that way the Loctite, you can see, is going to soak and run down the threads all the way down. And it will go all the way down the threads. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab us grease. Grab us some grease, not us grease. I don't know what the heck that was. Anyways, we're going to grab us some grease and we're going to wipe it on the feathering shaft. And we don't want any getting inside the threads. So we're going to grab the next side here. Just get some, just basically skimming it. Don't worry about making a mess. We'll come back after we are done assembling and clean the entire head off. So now, grab your blade grips. It is a 4mm Allen for the feathering shaft bolt size. So now we have our head block. We have our blade grip already pre-assembled. And we are going to slide this guy down here like this, gently and carefully, so we don't push anything out of the way. We are going to grab us our feathering shaft bolt. We are going to drop it down in there. We're going to grab our Allen wrench, just using the ball end of the Allen wrench to get it started. We're going to spin it down. Now remember, our feathering shaft isn't 100% straight in there, so now flip it over, grab the next side, do the same thing, carefully drop it down, grab your feathering shaft bolt, drop it down into the blade grip. I like using a ball end wrench or a ball end Allen for this, so I can kind of wiggle it around in there to get it started. And then I'll come back with the other end to torque it down. Okay, so now both of our grips are on. We're going to take a regular Allen wrench. I'm going to lock it into this side. Actually, we're going to do it this way so I can torque with my right hand. So we're going to lock it this way. And I like using regular Allen wrenches for this part. I don't like using drivers because I want torque. I want to have power. Torque it down. Nice and tight. Check your blade grips. Perfectly smooth. No binding, no grit. Now check for play. Yank on it. No play. No slop. So our head is completely assembled now. Now take yourself a paper towel, some rubbing alcohol, go ahead, clean all the grease off that you just made a mess on, and let's move on to putting the arms on. So now grab your arms, and it is going to be the bigger bolt, the 2.5mm driver. You're going to slide it in here, Loctite your bolt, of course. Grab your blade grip, get it started, tighten it down. Now we have one done. Now we're going to grab a 2mm driver and our ball end, Loctite, tighten it down. And grab a paper towel, wipe off the excess Loctite. Then grab your linkages that you made and pop them on. Do the other side, and the head is assembled. So now that we have our head completely assembled, we are going to move on to putting the swash plate on the helicopter. So now I already went ahead and just Loctited and did all the balls. There's no point videoing it. It is very simple. Loctite, put your ball links on. They're all the same. The only difference is the back pin link here. And that I do not put on yet, even though they tell you to in the manual, for the simple reason of your anti-rotation bracket. It is simple to slide this down and then put the pin in instead of trying to fight it, and I don't even think you can do that. So we're going to take a little bit of grease, of course. Let's get a little bit of grease on our shaft. Get ready to slide the swash plate down. You don't need a lot here, you just need a little bit. Sorry for bumping into you. So now that we have our shaft greased up, let's slide the swash plate down. So let's grab you. And slide the swash plate down like that. Now take your pin, your anti-rotation pin, and I'm going to slide it through this way first. Then get it started. It is a 1.5mm driver. All the balls are 2mm, exception of this back anti-rotation pin. So go ahead and tighten this down now. Now grab your head. So now for the head part of it, make sure everything is kind of just where it goes. So we're going to slide the head down now. There we go. We can put this sideways so you guys don't get hit in the face again, because I know that can't feel good. So we're going to grab our big main bolt, the 3mm Allen. No Loctite on this bolt because we have a lock nut. You're going to want to line it up. Go ahead and get your bolt in it so that way you can move around. Now we're going to lay it down. We're going to grab our lock nut. We are going to fish it down in there. Hold it in place while we tighten it. Now you're going to want to tighten this all the way up. I had to switch from my driver because they are cheap drivers and it was spinning in the handle. So now I just grabbed the regular old Allen wrench. So we're going to tighten this all the way up. Make sure this bolt is nice and tight. Snug it down good. Now you're going to grab a 2mm driver. And you're going to go through your pinch bolt holes here. Loctite, of course. Go ahead, tighten these down all the way. Snug it up till you get the other one in place. Snug them both and then tighten down so you get an even clamping force. So grab your next screw. Go ahead and Loctite it as well. It is going to go in from the other side here. Just like this. Remember, run it down until it gets snug. Now go back and forth and tighten them up. Now we are good to go there. So now we can go ahead. Had to move the camera so you guys could see better. So now we can go ahead and pop our links on. So now our swash plate links, the two that are straight are going to go for your radius arms. The two that are curved are going to go for your blade grip arms. Now remember one thing, SAB faces out. So when you go to push this link on, you have to make sure SAB is out and out. You can't have SAB logo facing this way. You want the logo to be facing opposite of it. So this link here, you have to turn one side 180 degrees. So we stick a driver in, and this is our right-handed thread. So we can just go left, or we'll go right one turn. Now you'll see how it is black backed. SAB is facing out this way. SAB out. Same thing. Go ahead, push this link into place and do the same on the other side. Now that our head is all on, Swashplate is there, everything is smooth and free. So now we need to make up the links, servo arms that go from the Swashplate to the servo arms. Now we're going to go ahead and make up our push rods from the servo to the Swashplate. So now on these servo horns here, push rods, you're going to have just a small piece of push rod that is threaded on each end, and there is a tiny little spot in the middle. So what I like to do is grab it. They're both going to be right-handed thread. Get your thread started. Grab your little SAB tool. Spin this guy all the way down. Keep turning until it stops. Okay, flip your little tool handle over here. Same thing on this side. Get it started. Run this handle, spin it all the way down. Try to stop the other side from spinning, which can be very difficult. And you're going to want to keep turning this in. You might have to use a different pair of needle nose to hold the middle until you get an overall length of 45 millimeters from here to here. Okay, so we went ahead and got the 3 push rods made up. Now you will notice that one of them is going to be different. You're going to have a opposing side. Now you want 45 millimeters from end of ball to end of ball link. These are at 45.2, I think, right around there, 45.15 millimeters. Now 2 of them are going to be opposite like this, because you want SAB facing out. So one side goes on the servo, one side goes on the Swashplate, same on the other side. So let's get these put on. Okay, so we're gonna grab the ball links that are opposing like this, and we'll notice that this one is made for this side. I made them for each side. Now this one is going to go on this way. Again, SAB faces away from the ball. We're gonna slide this guy up, put it on here. SAB faces away from the ball. We're gonna grab the one that is a complete opposite of each other, and we are going to get that one slid on. Then we're gonna rotate the helicopter around, and we're gonna do the same on this one. So we went ahead, get the SAB on the ball side, our faces away from the ball, and there, just like that, we got the servo, Swashplate, and complete head assembly done. And now we can move on. So we're gonna end part 1 off here. It's already almost 40 minutes long, and it's long enough. So in part 2, we got a majority of the stuff that takes the longest to get done in this part. So part 2, we'll go through, get all the rest of the stuff done, getting out its skids, get ready for the boom, so on and so forth, everything we can get done, and try to keep these videos to around 30 minutes so you guys don't get bored. So I want to give a huge thank you to Damian again for letting me build yet another incredible model for him. The SAB Nitro 580 is, I love the 580 RAW, one of my favorite helicopters. So I'm excited to put a Nitro 580 RAW together and try it, because I love Nitro, I love the 580. I think it's going to be a fantastic combination. So again, Damian, thank you very much, buddy. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to all the future builds that we got planned. And you know what builds I'm talking about. And you guys will see them builds very soon. So I want to thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like, subscribe, take care, and have a great day.